What if Catelyn Stark didn't capture Tyrion Lannister? Let's explore the depths of it in the video.
My Lord of Lannister!
Might I entertain you while you eat? I can see your father's victory at King's Landing.
Nothing would more likely ruin my supper. Lady Stark.
What an unexpected pleasure. I was sorry to miss you at Winterfell.
Lady Stark.
Catelyn freezes and stares at Tyrion Lannister. Despite his small stature, his presence leaves her whole body rigid. When she looks at his mismatched eyes, all she can imagine is how he hired that catspaw to murder her son. That image leaves her boiling in rage. She glances around, seeing knights and men-at-arms scattered across the room. They are her father's bannermen, and will rise up if she gives them an order. One command is all they need. But she also realizes how reckless that would be. If she takes Tyrion now, news will soon spread, and if it does, it will not be her who suffers. It will be Ned and her daughters in the capital. The Lannisters will cry injustice at how this was handled, and Robb might be forced to step in. She forces the fire in her heart to be quenched and nods.
Indeed. I had a surprise. I was simply visiting my father. After the shock of the last few weeks, I thought it would be best to see him once again.
Surprisingly, Tyrion appears sympathetic. He bows his head respectfully. Of course. I can imagine the shock it must have been with your young son. But you will be pleased to hear that while he may no longer walk, he may still yet ride.
What are you referring to?
I stopped by Winterfell on my way back from the Wall. I thought to provide Bran a gift, a specially designed saddle I've created, one for misshapen legs. Her anger ignites yet again as she hears him speaking of his son, as if he were an invalid, and once more she forces her anger down. Catelyn thanks him for his consideration and sits back down. Thankfully, Tyrion leaves them alone for his supper. Once he is gone, a dozen questions run through her mind about what this might mean. Is this another attempt on his life? An attempt to throw them off the scent? She is not certain, and they continue to nag at the back of her mind as she makes her way back to Winterfell. When she arrives, Catelyn and Robb meet to discuss what they've learned. He confirms Tyrion's story about offering a specialized saddle to Bran as a gift. Maester Luwin even studied it and confirmed that there don't appear to be any dangers or issues with it. By all accounts, it was an honest gift. This only raises more questions, and Catelyn begins to question Littlefinger's claim. If Tyrion truly was the one who hired the assassin, why would he visit the Wall and head deeper into the Northern Territory? Robb had also interviewed the staff and confirmed that the imp had spent most of his time in the library or the brothel. While they might have left King's Landing with iron certainty, now they begin to doubt. As this is happening, events are moving much faster in the capital as the conspiracy of Jon Arryn's death deepens. By this point, Ned has grown sick of politics and sees that, despite his position, Robert does not listen to him. He instead leaves him to run matters while he whores and hunts. The straw that breaks the camel's back is when Robert orders Daenerys murdered, and Ned can no longer stand by it and resigns. The next day, he and his household depart, leaving King's Landing behind them. They board a ship that will make a stopover at the port of Hull on Driftmark. There, it will anchor for a few days, allowing Ned to take a ship to Dragonstone and at last meet with Stannis. He leaves a contingent of guards to watch Sansa and Arya while Ned boards a ship alone to Dragonstone. The castle looms overhead, tall, jagged, and imposing. The spikes and shapes it forms seem almost unnatural, and its color is swirls of gray and black, long forged with magic and dragonfire. It would have intimidated most men, but to Ned, it is a relief and more inviting than King's Landing had been in weeks. Despite the lockdown that Stannis has commanded, the guards led Ned to him immediately as the new Lord of the Narrow Sea sits atop a wooden throne in the Great Hall. He raises his head and nods to Ned.
Lord Stark, you've come at last. I have been expecting you.
Then you know we have much to discuss. Jon Arryn.
Indeed. You've picked up his trail.
As twisting and confusing as it was, he visited close to a dozen children in the city, all sired by Robert. But for what reason? Does he intend to crown one of them?
No, don't be foolish. He intended to study them, to look at them. Tell me, did they look like my brother?
I recall little Maya in the Vale. I could have sworn they looked exactly like him. The same dark hair, the same nose, and
nothing like my niece and nephews.
Ned's eyes widen as he says those words. Everything suddenly clicks together, and the realization strikes him like a blow. He steps back and grips the chair for support. No. You can't mean to suggest.
I'm not suggesting anything. Jon Arryn and I had investigated this matter carefully and came to that realization. But it gets worse, unfortunately. Think of the children. All fair and green-eyed. Surely they would have shown some traits of their father.
That's madness.
Then you know why I could not remain in the city.
So, what can we do?
We must act quickly. You must return to the north and gather your banners. I will personally have my ships escort you there. Gather as many men as you can so we can storm the capital and arrest Cersei and her family.
But in the capital, there is also activity, as news of Ned's departure reaches Cersei's ears.
Indeed. It appears he was in quite a hurry to leave. There are not many ships heading to White Harbor at this moment.
I am not surprised. Politics was never something Starks excelled at. They struggle to comprehend things that require more than a sword and some honor. If he wishes to empty his purse while doing so, let him.
There is another matter you should know about. I happened to stumble upon Ned Stark entering a brothel. One I was hoping to purchase.
A brothel, you say? Well, it appears the Honorable Ned Stark is not as clean as everyone imagines. I'm not surprised. He has a bastard after all.
It appears so. It is a fine establishment, fit for a king, you would say. I hear gossip that Robert himself frequents that place. That is why I was so interested in it.
Cersei's laughter dies on her lips, and she narrows her eyes, wondering if this is some poor joke by Littlefinger. But when she sees that he is not smiling, she turns to Varys.
Yes, Your Grace. I must confess that it is true. I had hoped to spare your emotions. Such a troubling thing to hear, your husband's infidelity.
Silence! My emotions are fine, but it is my patience that wears thin. Both of you answer me now. Lord Baelish, this whore Robert slept with, did she have a child? And Varys, this ship, do you know where it's going?
Come to think of it, there was a babe on her lap. A girl with dark hair and the king's nose.
It stops at Hull, rounds Cracklaw Point to Maidenpool, then approaches Goldtown and White Harbor.
Cersei curses as it all comes together. Ned Stark is not running. He's plotting. He's trying to recruit Stannis into his cause. He must have caught on to Jon Arryn's inquiries and come to the same conclusion. That means that he intends to go to war with them. Stannis will now have the means to take action, and if he wants to, he could storm the capital. And if Robert hears about it, he will undoubtedly execute them. Though he never cared for his brother, he believes whatever Ned says. Frantic orders are sent out to Lancel Lannister, who will accompany Robert hunting, to Lord Tywin and Castle Rock, and to all of Cersei's allies. It is too late to stop Ned, but they can at least blunt their action and ensure that they are ready. The next few days are a flurry of activity, half hidden and half frantic as Cersei scrambles to take action. She is left in a state of chaos as she tries to make sense of everything that is happening, impatiently waiting for any updates. She had told her father that she had feared Stannis intended to take the throne, claiming that he had concocted a scheme, claiming that he convinced Jon Arryn that her children were illegitimate, so he could be made heir and urge him to move his armies to reinforce them. Tywin Lannister says nothing, and this leaves Cersei nearly driving herself mad with impatience. But there is some good news. A raven soon arrives that reports Robert was grievously gorged by a boar. He dies soon after, and Cersei wastes no time in declaring Joffrey the new king before anyone challenges his legitimacy. Cersei demands that everyone at court pledge their fealty to the young king. While Cersei might consider herself subtle and cunning, her frantic commands leave the Red Keep tense, and many realize something is happening. While Renly is watching and unable to escape, Loras Tyrell, Jon Royce, and others manage to slip through. More importantly, she still has no army. Her sudden commands have left the Westerlands scrambling to mobilize, but by the time Robert dies, Tywin's army is only partially prepared, with little over half their forces ready. This forces Tywin to advance with only 12,000 men. When he crosses over to the Riverlands, he finds the region closed off and prepared for his arrival. Before departing Dragonstone, Stannis had sent word to Edmure, telling him to shore up the border and that the Lannisters might attack. However, like the Lannisters, they were not given a chance to prepare their forces, and they arrived piecemeal. The only men blocking their path are the local riverlords, with hastily assembled levies. Tywin has little problem sweeping these men aside and unleashing the mountain to continue chasing them away. He presses deeper into the riverlands, ignoring houses that are not immediately attacking him and focusing only on reaching the capital as quickly as possible. Even with this plan, the movements are still slow. The army has to deal with smaller battles, and this chips away at their forces and adds smaller delays. An army of just 500 men can still halt his forces by hours to force them to battle and hunt down this force. By the time they reach Harrenhal, the army they find does not number nearly 500 men, nor does it consist of riverfolk. Instead, the banners of House Stark fly high on the walls of the castle, defiant against the Lannisters and blocking their path. Tywin immediately calls a halt to his army, questioning how he can get past this obstacle. He knows he cannot delay, as Cersei needs his troops there now. He sends several probing attacks, which are beaten back. To his surprise, the Starks even risk several sorties that hit his least prepared units. This only adds to the uncertainty between him and his bannermen. If they are risking such attacks, the commander must be very brave, or have men to spare. But Tywin does not dwell on them, and reluctantly orders an all-out attack. His men swarm the castle and attack from all sides. The fighting is fierce for a time, but to their surprise, they eventually manage to break through the defenses. Once they breach the walls, things end quickly. Too easy. In fact, by the time they reach the inner keep, they find only 100 men defending it. As it turns out, this was a picked force of men numbering less than 2,000. Roose Bolton had been given command and spent that time fighting, as if he had an endless supply of men to give the illusion of strength and delaying Tywin further. Now, as they take the castle, Roose slips out and rides off with his remaining men. This delay had paid off, as the main force of Northmen arrived. They come not from the Neck, but by sea. With Stannis' royal fleet, they ferry an additional 3,000 Northmen, which is joined by the rest of the Dragonstone army, giving them a force of almost 10,000. Without strength at sea of their own, the royal fleet easily sweeps aside what few ships the Lannisters can muster and captures the city. By the time Tywin's vanguard arrives, they see the flaming stag of Stannis atop the city walls. Tywin dares not risk besieging the city, not while his family is inside, but also because he can be cut off from the Westerlands entirely. So instead, he agrees to negotiate with Stannis, who has Joffrey under house arrest. The terms Stannis lays out are simple. Joffrey must renounce the throne and pass it on to him. Tywin must bend the knee and stop this war, acknowledging him as king, and must serve as his bannerman. Most importantly, his family must answer for the charges of incest, regicide, and Jon Arryn's death, and treason. Tywin is not Cersei, though, and he proves to be far more of an obstacle. Where Cersei acts with impotence and impulse, Tywin is cold and calculating. He takes a look at these accusations and rejects them all. The worst of these is incest, but he is quick to point out that there is no proof for it. Even as Stannis brings forward old documents showing lineages and genealogies, as well as the Baratheon bastards, Tywin rejects it on the ground that none of it proves Joffrey is illegitimate. The claims of treason are also rebuked, as he shows the letters he has been sent from Cersei, which claim that she fears for her safety and Stannis and Ned are plotting against her. As it turns out, this is true, and therefore he argues he was simply acting in self-defense. He does agree to compensate the Riverlords for the destruction his brief campaign has caused. Jon Arryn's death also cannot be tied to them, as they find no proof, and their only evidence is trying to find the incest. The regicide turns out to be harder to dismiss. With the capital under their control, Stannis now has access to the staff of the Red Keep, and begins interrogating them for information. Among them is Lancel Lannister, who was brought into the Black Cells and soon confesses to these crimes. He says he was ordered by Cersei to provide Robert unwatered wine, in hopes of getting him drunk during his hunt. Tywin tries to argue against it, but there is little he can say to appease them. By all accounts, Stannis and Ned were within their rights to act and punish her, as the claims of treason are well-founded. All Tywin can do is save himself by saying that the Queen was acting on her own accord. It is a desperate gamble, but one that works. Without direct ties or information that Tywin was part of this plot, they can only go after Cersei, and Tywin is willing to see her punished if it means saving the rest of his house. Cersei is soon executed outside the Red Keep. However, the question of succession remains. In her only intelligent move, Cersei had Joffrey crowned immediately, and so long as they cannot prove the incest, they cannot remove him without appearing as usurpers. Eventually, a deal is made to share power between the two parties. Joffrey shall remain king, Tywin shall be made protector of the realm, and Stannis shall be made hand of the king. Neither side enjoys this, and the Lord of Dragonstone threatens war over it. but Ned advises against it, reminding him that Tywin is in a vulnerable position, and attacking him might only strengthen him by making them appear the aggressors. From a hot war in the battlefield, it instead turns into a cold war at court. Armies are both sent back to their homelands, while the small council is reorganized under the joint leadership. Things start off rocky, but mostly stable, as neither side wishes to provoke the other, and there are even some points of agreement. Both work to cut back on spending to begin paying off the Iron Bank's debts, and to purge corrupt courtiers. While Joffrey might be king in name, one of the few things both sides agree on is that he would be a terrible king. Tywin seeks to guide him, while Stannis seeks to sideline him entirely. So instead, Joffrey is left to handle the points of kingship he enjoys, feasting, playing with crossbows, and executing the occasional criminal, while everyone else handles ruling. With this cooperation, Tywin privately approaches Stannis and tries to make peace with him.
Lord Stannis, I see no reason for conflict between our houses. While I admit our alliance was built on a shaky foundation with Robert's drunkenness and Cersei's instability, we can still strengthen it.
I have no such interest in discussing an alliance with you, Lord Tywin.
Not even if it grants you the Iron Throne. At least hear my proposal. You wish to rule, very well. Let us join our houses together, Joffrey and Shireen. A marriage between cousins is not considered incest. It will allow you to marry into the family, and your grandchildren shall sit on the Iron Throne.
You are as bold as you are old, Lord Tywin. But you are also foolish if you think that I will accept such a proposal. All that will do is legitimize your king's claim to the throne. My family already has the right to sit on the Iron Throne, but your bastard grandchildren are but leeches trying to cling on to it.
Lord Stannis, I hope you understand you cannot truly prove this incest. Everything you have gathered confirms nothing. It is all just footnotes in an old history. Anything less than a witness confession offers nothing, and even then one might argue that it could have been won through coercion. I offer you a way to power, one that benefits us both.
You think incest is all that bothers me? Shireen is a sweet girl. Joffrey is a monster. I would never condemn my daughter to such a match.
You act as if Shireen is such a catch, but she has grayscale. You will be lucky to wed her to a lesser lordling's second son.
Unlike you, I do not see my child as a bargaining chip, and I certainly do not think less of them because of some deformity. The answer is no, Lord Tywin.
Careful what you say. I already executed a daughter because of you.
You executed her because of your own actions.
The ruler of House Lannister bows stiffly and storms off, leaving Stannis alone. But it is not long before someone else approaches the old lion.
Pardon me, Your Grace. I could not help but overhear your conversation with Lord Stannis.
Yes, and I am sure you have much to say on it, but I am short on time, so please just tell me what you want.
He is a difficult man to deal with at the best of times, and his inflexibility makes doing business difficult. I would much rather have a Lannister on the throne. That is why I can help you secure a marriage alliance. This is not as strong as Dragonstone, but might even the odds. That is, if you are willing to part with a granddaughter.
I hope you are not suggesting yourself as a husband, Lord Baelish.
Of course not. But Robert Arryn might be a suitable match. Highborn without any companions. Such a lonely child.
His mother is half mad. She is the only one who still thinks we murdered Jon Arryn.
Indeed. But she and I have always been close. She has even proposed to me. I might be willing to convince her to accept this marriage, provided I word it differently, as she will secure a hostage from the Lannisters.
Allow me to guess. Afterwards, it shall mean you will be able to rule the Vale while Robert Arryn is a child.
You have me there, my lord. But isn't the Vale a small price for the 7 kingdoms?
That is not for you to decide. Still, I can be persuaded to allow this match so long as you continue to provide me with those knights.
Lord Baelish smiles, and the agreement is forged. Soon enough, he boards a ship to Gulltown with Myrcella in tow. his sudden disappearance leaves his seat open, and both Tywin and Stannis jockey to have one of their allies appointed. Stannis considers letting Lord Hightower serve as Master of Coin to secure the aid of the Reach under Renly's suggestion. Meanwhile, Tywin suggests a cousin from Lannisport. In the end, the Lannister must acquiesce to the suggestion, but it provides a smokescreen for Mycella's departure. He soon receives a letter that Lady Arryn has agreed to their marriage pact. This is far from an alliance with Stannis, but it at least guarantees that if a war breaks out, he will not have to fight the war on his own. Despite that, Tywin still hopes to avoid war entirely and works to secure his position. So long as Joffrey remains on the throne, he can win. There remains one slight thorn with this plan, and that is Tyrion's own accusations of trying to have Bran murdered. While it has been disproven with even Stark's questioning of how that might have happened, it still remains a sticking point for the Lannisters. That is especially true for Tyrion, who wishes to clear his name. At the same time, Ned Stark is not satisfied with the situation. Not that he is certain of the incest. He continues to look into it as well. A storm brews outside. Shadows flicker across the chamber walls as Ned Stark stands by the window, the city veiled in mist and orange light. On the table before him lies the old genealogy book Jon Arryn once studied, still open to a worn page. Black of hair. Black of hair. Stannis had told Ned everything. He knows what Tywin had said, and though it infuriates him to no end, he must agree. There is no real way to prove there was incest, or even adultery within the evidence they have. All of it is circumstantial, at best, so he must look deeper. Cersei is dead, and Jaime is unlikely to confess a thing. He cannot hope to ever secure a confession from them, so instead, he turns to the staff. Neither one of them is discreet as they like to believe. Perhaps one of them might have seen something. Ned turns, eyes drawn to a quiet knock. The door opens, and Tyrion Lannister steps in, uninvited, but calm.
May I?
Ned says nothing, just stares. Tyrion crosses the room, picks up the dagger lying beside the book, the same dagger used in the attempt on Bran's life. A sleek Valyrian steel blade with a dragonbone hilt.
Would you care if I borrowed this?
Borrow? Isn't that your blade, Lannister?
Oh, how I wish it were. It certainly is beautiful, but daggers and blades have never been something I cared for. I have heard rumors that you and your wife think I was responsible for the attempt on your son's life. I ask permission to clear my name, Lord Stark.
And you ask to take that dagger? Some might consider that tampering with evidence. How am I certain that you will not throw it into the narrow sea and ensure no one ever finds it?
You cannot be. But seeing that you have not mentioned me in your first list of charges against my family, I reckon that you believe there is some doubt. So I ask again. Allow me to prove you are right to doubt.
Very well. But let us be clear. If I ever wish for that dagger back, I expect it to be returned. Immediately. Anything else, and I shall consider it a confession from you.
Soon after, Tyrion walks among the clamor of hammer and steel, asking questions discreetly. He knows that Robert owned this blade, that they both bet on it during Joffrey's name day. Yet it was Robert who won it. Though no one seems to remember it, some recall it from the feast hall, others from a hunting trip. Nothing useful. He tries the Kingsguard next. They all confirm what he knows, but none of them know where it ended up. Simply that Robert had misplaced it during his time in Winterfell. None of them know where the blade went. Sir Meryn shrugs. Sir Boros pretends offense. Sir Aerys apologizes. Sir Barristan bows his head and admits that the Kingsguard cannot always notice every detail. Jaime quips that he half expected Robert to have used it to scratch his ass. It's only Sandor Clegane who pauses.
Aye, I know who misplaced it. Joffrey asked me to fetch it. Said he liked the shape of it. But that was before the fall.
Did he say why?
Bugger all if he tells me anything. Probably just wanted to play with it or something like that. Perhaps he wanted to show it off. All I know is, come morning, the dagger was gone.
Gone?
Aye. The boy didn't have it, and he certainly didn't say anything. Seems like he was hoping no one would notice. Suppose it was a smart wager, all things considered.
Elsewhere, Ned walks the castle halls, speaking to servants, guards, and handmaidens. He doesn't accuse, just listens, questions, waits, observes. His eyes are sharp now, colder than before. Yes, some say they've seen Sir Jaime leave the Queen's chambers late at night. Others recall hushed laughter beyond heavy doors. But it's all rumor, all whispers. They can't ever give anything more concrete. All of it is just rumors and idle gossip, the type of thing dismissed even faster than the genealogies they have presented. But then, one of his guards, Alan, reports something.
Not sure if it means anything, but I did see them heading inside a tower while they were in Winterfell. It was the Broken Tower. The Broken Tower? That was off limits to everyone. No one had their chambers there.
Ned catches his breath just for a moment.
Do you recall when that happened? The day Bran fell? I thought nothing of it, until now.
The Broken Tower. The very one Bran tumbled from. Too high to climb, yet Bran had always been bold, and he had never fallen there once. Ned looks up toward it through a narrow window slit. Lightning cracks. The tower stands in silhouette, jagged against the clouds like a black tooth. The sun filters through the windows of the Grand Maester's chambers, its rays casting a pale light over the parchment spread across the room. His talks to Pycelle about Littlefinger have thus been fruitless, but as he leaves, he thumbs through a set of potions recently purchased. But one catches his eye. A slip of vellum, creased at the corners. The handwriting is familiar. Littlefinger's, signed with that neat, curling signature. Tyrion leans closer, scanning the contents. Among the listed items, a vial of Tears of Lys. His mouth tightens. That poison is neither common nor cheap, mostly by those who preferred their murders tidy and untraceable. When he asks Pycelle about its effects, it begins to add up. The symptoms match, especially with him now sitting atop the Eyrie as the Lord of the Vale. He doesn't wait. Within the hour, he stands in Tywin's solar, the paper placed between them like a blade. Tywin reads it without flinching. His fingers rest atop the parchment, but he does not speak for a long while.
This points to Baelish, not to me, not to our house. He named me the owner of the dagger and may well have orchestrated Erin's death. He is trying to sow chaos, and he's already elevated himself as Lord of the Vale. If you move now, you can strip the man of title and influence. Most of the lords would support you.
And who will raise the banners when Stannis declares war? Lady Erin already loathes us. The Vale stands with us only because Littlefinger whispers in her ear. They might thank us for their removal, but they will not send their men to die for our cause.
So we let him go unpunished?
For the time being. After the war, we can look into this once again.
What happened to all that talk of our family name?
The Starks have nothing but rumors to accuse us. They can never truly pin us down to that crime, but they may be able to pin Littlefinger. That will do us no good.
So I remain rumored to have tried to have murdered a child.
Your name matters less than that of our house. I think you can bear that for a little while longer.
Elsewhere in the Red Keep, the tension mounts like a storm. Ned Stark's face is grim as he moves through the winding stone corridors, flanked by his guards. His hand tightens around the hilt of his sword, though it remains sheathed. His orders are clear. Bring Sir Jaime in for questioning. No accusations, not yet, but the time for silence is ended. They find Jaime in the yard, surrounded by Lannister guards, golden armor gleaming like fire in the sun. He's at ease, sharpening a blade, but the moment he sees the Stark men approach, his expression hardens.
You were summoned. Come with us, Sir Jaime.
But Jaime does not rise. His hand stills on the whetstone, then slowly wraps around the grip of his sword.
Summoned by whom? By me. Oh, well, begging your pardon, but you don't have the authority to summon me anywhere. You are no longer hand. Perhaps if you summon Lord Stannis, I might be inclined to go with you. But until then, I would much rather remain here. That was not a request.
The standoff lasts only seconds, then steel rings out. The yard erupts in shouts and chaos. Stark men clash with gold-cloaked guards, boots scraping on cobblestones, swords striking shields. Jaime moves like a phantom, fast and precise. Two men fall before him as he cuts a path through the fray. Ned reaches for him, but Jaime ducks away, blood on his sleeve, eyes wild. A final slash carves a space between them, and he sprints toward the stairwell. By the time the fighting dies down, Jaime is gone, vanished into the castle's hidden paths. 4 Stark men lay dead. One of Ned's household knights bleeds heavily from a wound in his side, but the Lannisters are scattered. Ned stands amid the carnage, jaw clenched. The time for secrets has passed. The war for truth has begun. Unsurprisingly, Tywin jumps at this opportunity. He slips out soon after, but accuses them of going above their authority and trying to arrest a Kingsguard knight without a warning. He uses this as an excuse to at last declare war on them. He returns to Castle Rock and calls his banners while sending birds to Littlefinger. Meanwhile, he also tries to sow chaos within the ranks of the Reach. Joffrey still remains unmarried, and he dangles that prospect before them. While he cannot fully rely on the Tyrells due to their closeness to Renly, many of their vassals might be inclined to accept. Houses like the Rowans, Oakhearts, Peaks, and Florence all have the blood of Garth Greenhand, but not the Tyrells. This fact has often led some to look down on them. He tells them that they need not fight against Stannis, simply cause some trouble for the Reach. By the time the Lannisters march out, they find the Riverlands waiting for them. Edmure has planned this for years and positioned many of his men on the border with the Westerlands. Men from houses Vance, Piper, Mallister, and Bracken are all waiting, while more are ready to attack. What they aren't prepared for is an attack from the Vale. With Littlefinger's influence, Lysa orders the Knights of the Vale to march out in support of the Lannisters. As they are their true king, they have little choice in the matter. Meanwhile, Robin's marriage to Marcella also helps secure this. The few houses in the east, houses Derry, Cox, and Page, are undermanned and unprepared for them. As their forces hurry to try and rally for an attack, the first knights gallop down from the mountain passes and run them down. Men are easily thrown aside by the first charge, and the Riverlands are thrown into disarray. The sudden attack leaves them scrambling for an answer. At the same time, the Westermen attack from the Golden Tooth, pouring out like a swarm of ants and trapping the Riverlords in the pincer strike. The Riverfolk are forced to scatter and leave the army to defend their homes. As smaller bands of fighters, they put up more of a fight, but they send out urgent calls for support. Stannis immediately mobilizes his men to fight, as does Ned in the north. Renly is about to follow, raising the banners of the Tyrells and the Stormlands, but seeing the sudden success of Lord Tywin and hearing of the rewards he offers, some houses in the Reach at last rebel. Under House Peak, several lesser houses openly take up arms, forcing Mace Tyrell to first direct his attention towards them. To make matters worse, some of his larger bannermen refuse to send as many men. The Oakhearts only send a fraction of their strength, as do the Florence and Rowans. This makes it harder to put down the rebellion. This leaves Stannis to deal with the Riverlands alone, until Ned can arrive. Smoke still rises from the fjords of the Tumblestone when the thunder of hooves rolls through the ravaged Riverlands. He brings a column of 10,000 strong, banners of the fiery heart of R'hllor fluttering beside the crowned stag. Behind him come hardened Crownlanders, Dragonstone veterans, and a host of sellswords paid with royal coin. What remains of the Riverlords rally to his banner. Men of House Derry and Mooten, scattered by the Vale's sudden charge, regroup beneath his command. From ravaged towns and ruined fields they emerge, bloodied but unbowed. Small bands of Riverlords who wage a guerrilla war now rush to his side. Stannis wastes no time in setting up a defensive formation. He forms a cordon in the east, reinforcing key crossings and blocking the mountain pass, forcing the Valemen to a halt. While it halts their attack, he cannot break their lines and force them back. The Lannister advance, so sure and swift, begins to slow as Stannis stages a sudden counterattack. The fiercest of this fighting takes place in Acorn Hill, where he manages to actually drive back the forces under the command of Flemett Brax. The fighting is ferocious, and as skilled as Stannis is, he cannot hold back the enemy forces for long. These initial successes give way to a slow retreat. His expertise allows him to organize a fighting retreat, slowing but not stopping the bleeding. It is enough, as days later, cold banners rise in the north. Ned Stark leads the host of Winterfell down the neck, flanked by riders of House Reed and 1,000 mountain clansmen, plus many more from the Glovers, Mormonts, Cuins, and Boltons. More ships arrive from White Harbor, bringing knights of House Manderly and Umber footmen clad in mail and fury. The north clashes into the western flank, blunting the Lannister line. But just as balance returns, the war expands. Black sails are spotted on the western coasts. At Pike, House Greyjoy throws in with Tywin, not for loyalty, but for plunder. Iron Raiders descend on the Reach, burning coastal villages, looting granaries, and splitting Mace Tyrell's attention further. Now fighting a war on 3 fronts, the Reach buckles. Several more strike at the north, but Robb is ready and leads quick strikes to battle them along the coast. House Peak's rebellion grows bolder. The Florents hold back their men. The Rowans and Oakhearts claim harvest shortages, sending only token forces. Mace seethes. His army crumbles without battle. However, Ned brings more than just men. He also brings news. Lord Eddard Stark presents his findings before the gathered Riverlords and the Northmen. The proof is sparse: a ledger from Jon Arryn, a servant's sworn statement, records of Jaime's nightly visits to the Queen's chambers, and Alan's testimony. None of it is definitive, but when pressed, Tywin offers no defense. He will not even allow his children to be questioned. No explanation, no denial. And in their silence, doubts fester. Some bannermen of the Westerlands begin to waver, as do his allies. House Florent at last commits its full strength to the war effort. House Beesbury quietly marches their levies back as if the rebellion had not happened, and then Renly marches through Bitterbridge and begins his attack. With the extra support, they at last begin to turn the tide and drive the rebels back. This allows Mace and the High Towers to begin an offensive that liberates the coastline. Tyrion Lannister watches all of this unfold from the edges of the War Council. Every raven carries another demand for men, for food, for gold. The vaults of Castle Rock bleed dry. The name Lannister is being dragged through the mud and blood, for a throne his father cannot even defend. One night, he pens a letter in cipher. It reaches Stannis through neutral hands, and a bargain is proposed. Sir Jaime shall take the Black, stripped of title and name, and in exchange, Tyrion will provide information that can knock the Vale out of the war. The offer sounds too good to be true, but Ned is intrigued and considers it. There is also nothing inherently wrong about these requests. They agree, and Tyrion soon releases his findings, revealing the sudden purchase of Tears of Lys and how its effects match the symptoms of Jon Arryn's death. Within a fortnight, word reaches the Eyrie. The Vale Lords, long suspicious of Littlefinger and who never liked his sudden rise to power, question this relentlessly. They block the Eyrie, and several lords interrogate him and Lady Lysa. Littlefinger is silver-tongued as ever, trying to dissuade them, spinning tales of deceptions and whispering that they have been misled. But the lords are relentless, and Lysa soon breaks, confessing her part in poisoning Lord Arryn when they threaten to have Peter executed and Robin taken away. This break sends the Vale Lords into shock. Both are immediately arrested and are soon executed, with Robin being placed in the care of House Royce. They also begin to enter negotiations with Stannis, offering to make amends and rejoin the Royalist camp. Stannis is quick to accept these terms, accepting their apologies and making some tribute as punishment. But with that, the Westerlands find themselves alone. Now the North and Riverlands can throw their full strength behind Tywin. With nearly 40,000 men, he continues to fight for every inch of territory, and still, Tywin refuses to yield. He organizes a fighting retreat, surrendering land bit by bit. However, Tyrion decides that the time is not to act. He secretly ships off into Goldentooth, riding ahead, and takes control of it. When Tywin and the rest of his army arrive, they find it closed off. When Tywin approaches, he looks over the wall and frowns when he sees Tyrion atop the battlements.
What is the meaning of this?
Peace, Father. The war is lost, in case you haven't seen. I'm trying to secure our survival.
That is not for you to decide. I have always known you to be a fool, but never a craven. You would throw away everything we have fought for. What are you paying for your peace?
Why, you, Father.
You are no son of mine.
On the contrary, I am. It is as you told me. Our house's name matters more than yours. You can live with that for a little longer.
As he says that, the Royalist army descends upon them. Tywin turns to the Lannisters and engages them. The battle is fierce, but his men only fight half-heartedly. Hopelessness and despair seep into their ranks as they realize they have nowhere to go. They continue to struggle, fighting as they cannot retreat. But at last, they break when Ned Stark's cavalry rushes forward and finishes Tywin off. The Lord of Castle Rock feels his back against the wall as the men surround him. They are in little mood for mercy, and he is soon cut down. With that done, the rebel operations collapse. Rebel lords surrender, the Ironborn retreat back to their isles, and the Vale make peace. As promised, Jaime is allowed to take the Black, leaving Tyrion Lord of Castle Rock. Joffrey is executed, leaving Stannis to claim the seat as king. Most of the rebels are pardoned, but others may pay a steeper cost, like the Peaks. Those who serve purely to further their ambition lose their seats, their titles, and sometimes their heads. But with those Burges, peace at last descends into the Seven Kingdoms. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.